Hi everybody, I hope you and yours are well. This is Avrohom Czapnik from the Jewish Learning Exchange in Los Angeles. The great masters of Musar, of self-improvement, have an interesting question. What's more important? Should a person know his virtues, his positive attributes, or should a person know his areas of failure, character that he needs to work on, self-development? Surprising answer. We'll find out shortly. This week's Torah portion is Parshat Vayikra, which is the beginning of Chumash Vayikra, the book of Leviticus, the third of the 5 books of the Torah. And in it, the first word is Vayikra, and he called, and God called to Moshe. And in the Torah scroll, and you'll see in the Chumash, in the printed book as well, there's a small aleph for Vayikra, which is a symbol of Moshe's humility. Moshe didn't want to write that God called him out, that out of all the entirety of the people in the world and all the Jewish people standing by the beginning of the use of the Mishkan, that God singled only Moshe out. And he wanted to not write that, but God said, no, put it in, so he put in a small aleph. So the small aleph is a symbol of Moshe's humility. Without the aleph, one may have read it Vayikar, and God met Moshe, but no, God wanted everyone to know that it's Vayikra, that he called solely to him. Moshe was very humble, and we see this in so many examples. This is one example. Other is that when people argued with him, he tried to make peace. When God wanted to have the Jewish people just come from him, Moshe insisted not and prayed on behalf of the Jewish people. But we have many examples of great people that had great humility. There's a beautiful book that came out relatively recently about Rabbi David Feinstein, one of the great Jewish law authorities, the son of Rav Moshe Feinstein. And in it, there's so many beautiful examples of how he was willing to humble himself, especially to help a fellow Jew. He didn't stand on ceremony, didn't stand on his honor, didn't stand on the vast Torah knowledge that he had, but had the sweetness and humility to help anybody in any way he could, even if it was, in a sense, beneath his dignity, but he didn't care. But there's another aspect that we have to remember about humility. Humility does not mean low self-esteem. Humility means knowing who you are, but at the same time not being boastful about it. We're going to be learning in a few weeks about the Mitzorah, the person who has a leprosy-like disease. And as part of the purification process, he has to bring a sacrifice, a korban, but he also has to bring some cedar wood, and some thread, and some grass. And the Chedush points out a beautiful idea there. The Chedush, the great Hasidic master, the first Ger Rebbe, tells us that it's trying to teach us an important idea, that there are times when we need to have the strength and height and of a cedar tree, to have the self-esteem, to have hope, to have the strength to fight the evil inclination. But other times we need to have humility, to understand not to let our successes go to our head, and to understand that we shouldn't be haughty over other people. The Baal HaTanya, the great Hasidic master, the first Lubavitcher Rebbe, had a beautiful thought that he shared with his grandson. And he talked about the different sizes of letters. Rav Spiro brings this down. Different sizes of letters in the Torah. There's large, there's in between, middle size, and small. And generally the Torah is written in the middle, which teaches us an important lesson of always taking the middle ground. When it comes to our character, for example, not to be stingy, and not to just spend wildly. Take the middle road. Usually it's best to take the middle road. But there are times where you need to have the strong road, where you take the high road, and that's the big letters, that's the symbol of the big letters. And the times you need to be humble, that's the small letters. And this was a lesson that his grandson internalized and lived for the rest of his life. And this really answers our initial question. the masters of Mussar tell us that it's important, more important to know our failings, it's to know what our strengths are. Not fake strength, but real strength. Because when we know what our strengths are, then we can accomplish and do things and have the inner strength to make the right choices, to fight the evil inclination, and to be motivated to go out and accomplish great things. Yes, we need to know our failings as well. We need to know how we need to work on ourselves to become better people. We need both. But more importantly is knowing our virtues. So yes, Moshe was the humblest of men. At the same time, he had the inner strength to do the right thing and to advocate for the Jewish people and to stand up to the pharaohs of the world. We need to have that balance and work on that balance all the time so that we have the humility to know we're not perfect and we need to develop ourselves, but at the same time have the strength and the self-esteem to do great things and attempt to accomplish great things in this world, in our relationship with God and the Jewish people and His Torah. Have a wonderful Shabbat. All the best.